Hi, and welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Marvelous Joe.
And I'm his twin brother, Johnny DC.
And in this episode, we're going to find out who would win in a fight between the diminutive characters Bumblebee and the Wasp. Everybody knows who the Wasp is. Of course, she headlined in her own movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm surprised, honestly, that it's taken us this long to get to a duel with her because I'm a big fan of Janet Van Dyne, even though I might go with Nadia Van Dyne for this actual duel match.
Who the hell is that?
It's the new version of the Wasp, just like how Scott Lang is the new Ant-Man after Hank Pym. But I'll talk about that later when we get into our character backstories before speculating on how a fight would go and then running simulations to see who would actually win. And of course, nobody knows who Bumblebee is, so it's DC. What can you do?
Fans of the DC cartoons and comics know who she is.
Yeah, so barely anyone.
Oh my god.
So anyway, before we do that, we're going to get into the comic book movie news from the past week, including the Batman movie's deleted scene with the Joker in Arkham Asylum. And we're also going to talk about how Zack Snyder's Justice League won some kind of stupid award at the Oscars. And finally, the news that Marvel is developing a Nova project. As always, we list our segment times in our episode description, so feel free to check out the show notes if you want to skip ahead to a particular topic. And don't forget, guys, you should join this show's Patreon, because not only do we offer ad-free episodes of the show via a custom RSS feed, we also offer bonus content including top 10 episodes, bloopers, monthly live movie watch-alongs, and access to our Discord chat server, where you can chat with Jonathan and myself. Check it out right after this episode at patreon.com/dynamicduel, which is linked in our show notes.
Yeah, guys, our lowest tier is only $2 a month.
But with that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize. A No Prize is an award that Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award that we post on social media that I personally draw for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week.
Yeah, last week we asked, do you like Ms. Marvel's energy powers, or would you have preferred her inhuman, embiggening powers in reference to how they're portraying her powers in the upcoming Ms. Marvel Disney Plus television show? We got a lot of answers here. Let's go ahead and run down our honorable mentions as well as the No Prize winner. Our first honorable mention goes to DC Joe, who said,
I think they should have left her powers as stretching. That way they can more easily explain her increased strength and durability. And also, it sets up a good opportunity for whenever Mr. Fantastic is introduced to have him as a mentor or father-type figure or what have you. And also, with changing her powers to this energy kind of constructs, they copy DC again, and the character is Bunker.
Jonathan, what do you know about Bunker?
Oh, Bunker was a member of the Teen Titans in the New 52 relaunch. He created purple constructs, just exactly like this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, it looks like Marvel beat you guys to the punch on that, too. But, DC Joe raises a good point. One of the prevailing theories for why Marvel is choosing to go with these energy-based powers for Ms. Marvel is because the Fantastic Four will soon be joining the MCU, and they don't want to portray both Mr. Fantastic and Ms. Marvel with the same stretching powers. But in that, DC Joe sees an opportunity for some kind of mentor-mentee relationship between the two stretchy characters, which I actually think is a pretty solid idea.
Yeah, maybe now Invisible Woman could mentor Ms. Marvel?
Maybe. I think the decision to go with the energy powers probably has less to do with the Fantastic Four and more to do with Captain Marvel and the upcoming The Marvels movie. Would have been nice to get those Inhuman references, though.
Yeah, definitely. Our next honorable mention goes to Ollie Johnson, who said,
Hello, it's Ollie Johnson here, and I'm just going to tell you that I really like your podcast, but also here's my answer. So I really, really think the new powers are cool because it's just such a diversity, just such a nice change. And yeah, thanks.
Yeah, in terms of the MCU currently, there aren't any heroes that can generate constructs, so it is kind of like a diverse power set for what's currently within the cinematic universe.
True, but that also being said, there's also no stretchy characters either.
But there will be a very prominent one. It takes us full circle to what DC Joe said.
Yeah.
But great answer, Ollie. Thanks so much for calling in. The easiest way to get an honorable mention is to say you love the show. just throwing that out there.
Our final honorable mention goes to Marquis High, who said,
Hey, gents. Marquis High here, calling in to share my disgust on this Marvel power change. Yeah, that's kind of lame. There's so many people that shoot laser blasts, so many people with super strength. We have Luke Cage, we have, Jessica Jones. I don't understand why there can't be more than one stretchy person. Fantastic Four really needs to make a splash, but nah, not that big. All right, guys.
And that's a valid point. Like, we see characters that share similar power sets all the time in movies.
Yeah, it's a great logical argument. Why not have two stretchy characters? It's totally doable, And there are certainly different ways to portray stretching, I'm sure, if you get creative enough.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, Miss Marvel's embiggening involves, like, her body parts growing larger, not necessarily bending into a pretzel.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. Great point, Marky High. We want to give a quick shout out to other answerers, Chumnu, Brenton Estergaard, and Wilfie, who took the time to visit our website, click the record button, and leave an answer. We truly appreciate you guys for doing that. But the winner of this week's No Prize goes to Paulo, who said,
Hello, this is Paulo, and I'd like to say that I prefer the energy powers over the embiggening powers, because we've already seen embiggening with Ralph Dibny in The Flash, and he can pull it off. I'm not sure if the actor they have for Miss Marvel can, so definitely energy powers. Looks a lot nicer that way. Thank you.
And ultimately, I think that's why they ended up going this route. Because even in the comics, the embiggening ability is kind of awkward. It makes her look kind of strange purposefully.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of the appeal of the character. However, going with energy powers adds a lot of visual interest, and I think they may have a good way to spin it, considering her enemies in the show are going to be the Clandestine, a group of genies, basically. And that really piques my interest. Despite the fact that, there's no Inhuman reference, that we don't get this cool stretching power, I know that we're still going to be able to see stretching powers down the line with Mr. Fantastic, and in the meantime, we get this character with cool energy construct creation powers.
You mentioned in our last episode that you wish it was kind of a little bit more like an aura around her that would stretch. To me, that's still the perfect compromise. And I really wish they would have gone that route.
And they may use it that way in the show a lot. We're just referencing what we've seen so far in the trailers.
Yeah, with the stepping stones and the force fields.
Yeah, exactly. In the end, we'll see how it all plays out when the show actually comes out in a few months. But congrats again to Paulo for winning this week's No Prize. If you, the listener, want a shot at winning your own No Prize, stay tuned to later on this episode when we'll be asking another question of the week. And now that that's done,
on to the news. Okay, so this past week, the Batman director Matt Reeves released a clip of the Batman questioning the Joker about the Riddler in Arkham Asylum. Now, this was a scene that we knew had been deleted from the film. Matt Reeves talked about it in interviews, and we mentioned it during our review of the Batman film. I didn't think it was going to be released this soon, and I gotta say, it was just incredible. It was awesome. I really, really enjoyed this scene.
I think the reason they released it now when they did was because of competition at the box office. They wanted to release this as a piece of marketing material to get people to go in to see the Batman if they hadn't already, given that it teases the Joker is in the movie.
Yeah, that's fair speculation. I think the Batman is sort of in danger of missing the 1 billion mark at the box office. So hopefully releasing this clip, kind of gives it an extra boost for people to see it who may not have otherwise. The scene involves Batman bringing the Joker a set of documents, basically the case file for the Riddler and his killings so far. It's very, very Silence of the Lambs inspired, I feel like, where Batman is going to the Joker, kind of in the same way Clarice went to Hannibal to gain some insight on who the serial killer is.
How come Batman isn't a good enough detective to do this on his own? Why does he have to go to the Joker?
Well, I mean, the Joker said, usually you're on top of all of this. I think he was surprised as well. But if anyone could stump the Batman, I'm glad it's the Riddler.
What did you think of Barry Keoghan's performance?
I loved it. I think it was the closest to Heath Ledger's performance that we've gotten so far, but he also just made it his own with this New York accent. His laugh was so good. His laugh was really, really chilling.
Yeah, I agree. I think the performance was good. I think the performance was better than the makeup. I'm still not 100% on board with this super scarred look that they're going with for the character.
Yeah, it is not easy to look at by any means. And I'm still super confused as to why he looks that way. Because in interviews, when Matt Reeves has said, yeah, we're going to release this scene online later on, he mentioned that this Joker is more like the Elephant Man than like someone who fell into an acid bath. He was saying that this Joker isn't someone who's been burned by acid, but someone who is born with a physical deformity. And I'm like, dude, this guy clearly suffered burns, probably from acid. If someone fell into an acid pit, they'd probably look exactly like this, just completely scarred everywhere, missing hair. But I also really liked the fact that we couldn't clearly see him throughout the entire scene. He was just behind that kind of blurry glass, and it almost gave it like a more haunting kind of feel. Towards the end, when we get sort of like close-ups of his face, the performance that Barry Keoghan gave was so good. I totally want to see more of his Joker, and it gets me really excited for the upcoming HBO Max Arkham spinoff for this show. I don't know if the Joker is going to be in that, but he almost needs to be now that they've teased him this way.
Was this appearance of the Joker good enough to make you no longer wish that it was Joaquin Phoenix in the Batman movie?
Ooh, that's a good question. Honestly, yeah. Actually, I'm really, really interested in this version of the Joker now. I think his performance was that good. And that's not the vibe that I got from the scene he had in the Batman movie. Like, I didn't really care for that scene. That was probably my least favorite scene in the entire film. But this one, again, really made me interested in Matt Reeves' take on the Joker.
It would have been hard to say that Joaquin Phoenix's version of the Joker is intelligent enough to serve as a kind of psychological consultant.
Oh yeah, Barry Keoghan's, and I'm sure I'm saying his name completely wrong, but no, his take on the Joker was so smart, and that's what I loved about it. The way he just got into Batman's head and was like, you actually like the fact that the Riddler is killing these guys. You feel like these guys deserve it. And it's just like, oh shit, because that kind of touches the audience too, in that we don't like corruption either. And do we as audience members also think that it's good that this is happening to these corrupt officials? It's so twisted, and in a way that the Joker absolutely should be. And the scene was funny too. Like the whole like paper anniversary and the Joker laughing about how like, oh, you think like the Riddler's making you look soft? I feel like I laughed more at this than I have in like the past few iterations of the Joker.
You mean you laughed out loud?
I mean, I chuckled out loud.
Okay. I don't buy that.
You don't? You didn't find that funny?
No, it was more like, it wasn't funny, ha. It was more like funny, okay.
No, it's like funny, like, ha, that's clever. I love that they have like a history, Batman and Joker, in this franchise. Like the Joker even got caught on Halloween, apparently, because like this was their 1 year anniversary, as the Joker put it. That's cool. I don't know if we'll ever get to see that history between them. I'm not even actually sure when the Joker is going to pop up again, because Matt Reeves has said, you know, maybe we won't put the Joker in the sequel. But I'm hoping, at the very least, he appears in the third film. Maybe even sooner, like in the Arkham series. But I'm still kind of torn as to whether or not this scene should have been in the movie. And that brings us to our question of the week. Should the deleted scene in The Batman with Joker have been in the movie or not? And why? Record your answer at dynamicduel.com by clicking on the red microphone button in the bottom right-hand corner, which will prompt you to leave us a voicemail. Your message could be up to 30 seconds long, and don't forget to leave your name in case we include you on the podcast. We'll pick our favorite answer and draw that person at a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to social media. Be sure to answer before April 2nd. In other DC news, the Oscars were this past Sunday, and even though no DC films were nominated, and actually some Marvel films were nominated, Marvel walked away with nothing, and Zack Snyder's Justice League walked away with the very first fan-voted award, cheer-worthy moment. Specifically, when the Flash is racing backwards in time. Now, this award was voted on by Twitter users who had to use specific hashtags, and it beat out other film moments from throughout the years, including Neo dodging bullets in The Matrix, the And I'm Telling You solo in Dreamgirls, but also the Spider-Man team-up in Spider-Man No Way Home, and the Avengers Assemble moment in Avengers Endgame. So suck it, Marvel!
Let's be real. This is not a real award. It's a fucking Twitter poll.
But it's like a huge Twitter poll. It's a real award. It's a major award.
It's not a real award. It's a Twitter poll that was mostly voted on by Zack Snyder cultists. Let's be real. It's not the actual most cheerworthy moment. And even if this is a real award, all it does is serve to balance the fact that DC didn't get nominated for shit, and Marvel actually did.
Dude, Marvel goes to the Oscars nominated, wins nothing. DC, not nominated for anything, still walks away with an award. That's how we do in DC. That's the headline.
No, I think the real headline from the Oscars was when Will Smith smacked the shit out of Chris Rock.
That was insane. That was like the most interesting Oscars moment probably in the history of Oscars from what I've seen.
Yeah, craziness. Crazy.
That's almost like a good analogy, though, for like what DC did to Marvel, you know?
I loved it when the Discord chat said that we should run the stats between Will Smith and Chris Rock.
Let's take it to the stats.
In Marvel news, we got exciting news this past week that a Nova project is getting underway with the writer of the Moon Knight television series, Sabir Pirzada. And I assume I'm pronouncing that wrong. But with how good Moon Knight is shaping up to be, we got a lot of early reviews from people who have seen the show, like the first 4 episodes. They're saying it's pretty good.
They're saying it's the best thing Marvel's done.
Yeah, which has me super excited. It seems like it's pretty badass, and badass is a word I would use to describe the character of Nova. If you guys don't know much about Nova and the Nova Corps and Richard Rider, definitely check out our Duel episode between him and Green Lantern, because we go into his backstory. He's an awesome character. He's been part of the Guardians of the Galaxy. He was a big player in the Annihilation Conquest, and has been subsequently a major force in the cosmic side of the Marvel Universe.
Now, are you hoping that this Nova project is going to be a movie or a TV series on Disney+?
I hope it's a movie. Honestly, I would be kind of disappointed if it was a television series, because the scale of Nova's abilities out in space and everything like that, it's something you want to see on the big screen.
I'm kind of wondering how they're going to differentiate his power between Captain Marvel.
Yeah, and their power sets are largely the same. It all depends on how they render it using special effects. I'm sure they can establish a good enough difference.
I just really hope this Green Lantern show comes out before. Good gosh, if it doesn't, I'm going to be so angry.
It's not going to. We all know that. I'll probably be a little bit more excited about this once we see Moon Knight and the quality of that story. But, you know, the fact that a Nova project is getting underway is exciting news on its own. I really can't wait to see how this shapes up.
Yeah, I really would be surprised if they didn't tease something about this project in the upcoming Guardians projects. You know, either the holiday special or the next movie.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. But I think that does it for all the news for this episode, so let's go ahead and get into our main event, where we find out who would win in a fight between the Teen Titans character Bumblebee and the Avengers character, the Wasp. All right, Bumblebee and the Wasp. Now, it's taken us years to get to this episode. We wanted to do it back when Ant-Man and the Wasp came out, and that was in 2018, I believe. So, dang, 4 years for us to get to this point. Why is it taking us so long? I don't know. That's just the way our format works, basically. There's a lot of Marvel and DC content coming out and a lot of tie-in duels to go with that, and now here we are.
Yeah, we probably could have waited until like Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania came out, or maybe, you know, when the new season of Young Justice wrapped up. But honestly, the sooner the better, because these characters are pretty popular. Admittedly, Bumblebee not as much as the Wasp, considering the Wasp has had her own movie, but Bumblebee has been in a lot of cartoons.
In the comics, the Wasp is Janet Van Dyne, and then later on Nadia Pym, who is the daughter of Hank Pym. I looked up what Nadia means in Russian, and it does mean hope.
Interesting.
Why they chose not to call Nadia Hope in the comics is beyond me. But yeah, Nadia is kind of like the Hope Van Dyne equivalent in the books.
I do have to admit that this is one of the few characters that DC has ripped off of Marvel.
And by few, you mean a shit ton, right? Because DC rips off Marvel all the time.
Dude, it's probably like this and like one other character, like in the history of all the duels we've done.
Why did it have to be a Bumblebee?
I don't know, because we could do it better.
But can DC? Let's find out. If you've never listened to one of our Duel episodes before, the way we determine a winner between these two characters is by running 1,000 Monte Carlo simulations using their statistics. A Monte Carlo simulation is a probabilistic model used to determine outcomes through random sampling.
And in our case, it randomizes statistics along a normal distribution, which is a bell curve, as a way to simulate the many variables that could occur during battle. The stat parameters we use are based on the official Marvel Power Grid, and we use that criteria to extrapolate the DC character stats. We've included some additional stat categories of our own, such as range, damage potential, versatility, and perception, in order to create a more complete and robust simulation.
Now, running these 1000 simulations gives us a percentage of wins for each character, and we declare the one with the higher percentage to be the ultimate victor, considering that they're more likely to win any given battle. No character ever wins 100% of the time. Comics have shown that there's usually a way for Batman to defeat Superman, and we feel our method falls in line with the precedents that have been established in the comic book stories.
And we use this method because it was the least subjective, most unbiased way to determine who would win. Of course, we were both heavily biased toward our respective allegiances, and instead of debating these matches forever, we just let the math decide for us. So there's no fan votes here, and no relying on just feats.
Before we run the simulations, though, we like to break down each character's histories and abilities before improvising a scenario on how we imagine one of the 1000 simulations we run would play out beat for beat. And I believe it's my turn to go first with the Marvel character's backstory, so let me go ahead and tell you guys all about the Wasp. Janet Van Dyne was born into a wealthy family headed by her father, Dr. Vernon Van Dyne. Though her father was a busy physicist, she was raised close to him due to the unfortunate passing of her mother when she was a young child. Janet grew up to be a fun-loving socialite with a talent for fashion design, and she had her pick of suitors. However, she had her eyes on only one man, a young widower and colleague of her father's named Henry Pym, who was ridiculed in the scientific community for his attempts to create a shrinking formula. He and Janet had just started dating when Henry administered his Pym particles to himself and secretly began going on adventures as the superhero Ant-Man. Like Pym, Janet's father was an unconventional scientist who sought to breach the barriers between dimensions with a specialized energy beam. He was successful eventually and opened a portal to an alien dimension called Cosmos, where a monster stepped through and burned Janet's father alive with an acid secretion. Janet was horrified when she found her father's body and called Pym for help. As they investigated the death, Pym was impressed by Janet's resolve and bravery to confront the monster that had killed her father and avenge him. Pym then revealed his superhero identity to Janet and fashioned a suit for her along with artificial wings, making her his adventuring partner, the Wasp. Together, they fought the creature from Cosmos, dissolving him with a basic chemical, and Janet got her revenge. They went on to save the Earth from a variety of villains, including Egghead, the Living Glazer, and Porcupine. Soon, they teamed up with Iron Man, Thor, and the Hulk against the Asgardian villain Loki, and found they worked well as a team. It was Janet who suggested they call themselves the Avengers, and the group went on to be renowned as Earth's mightiest heroes. You can learn more about the Avengers in our Justice League vs. Avengers Duel episode. Together, they battled the likes of King the Conqueror, the Masters of Evil, and Atuma from Atlantis. In order to make her more effective in battle, Pym equipped Janet with a Wasp's Sting, which was a wrist-mounted electric blaster. Through this time, Janet actively pursued a romantic relationship with Pym, but his emotional issues caused him to maintain a distance between them. Eventually, however, Pym came to his senses after nearly losing Janet in a fight with Whirlwind, and he professed his love for her. The two then got engaged and retired from the Avengers to dedicate themselves to scientific research, with Janet as Pym's lab assistant. Pym's insecurities and frustration, however, led to a growing depression that culminated with the creation and corruption of the Ultron robot, whom you can learn more about in our Brainiac vs. Ultron episode. This failure led Pym to dissociate from reality and rebrand himself as Yellow Jacket. Though Janet was aware of Pym's mental instability, the two still got married. Janet kickstarted her career as a fashion designer and dove back into the New York social scene as her husband appointed a new Ant-Man in the burglar-turned-hero Scott Lang, who was featured in our Atom vs. Ant-Man duel. Later, Janet was asked to join the Avengers without Pym, and his jealousy of her professional success contributed to his mental breakdown that resulted in him striking Janet. She filed for divorce and continued her Avengers career, becoming chairwoman of the team. As the Avengers leader, Janet determined that the team should be more inclusive to female superheroes and brought on She-Hulk and Photon. She proved herself to be an efficient and reliable leader of the Avengers, being a voice of reason on the team and even assisting teammates in their personal matters. Janet was one of the Avengers to seemingly sacrifice themselves to defeat the villain Onslaught, though it was revealed those heroes were actually just trapped in a pocket dimension. When they all returned to their home reality, Janet rekindled her romance with Pym, who had become more emotionally stable, though she ultimately rejected his proposal to get married again. Janet sided with Iron Man during the superhero civil war that forced costume crime fighters to register with the government or face prosecution. During the secret invasion of shapeshifting alien Skrulls, an alien disguised as Pym transformed Janet into a giant explosive bioweapon, and she seemingly died in battle.
Wait,
in actuality,
what? She became like a giant weapon?
Yeah, she became like a giant bio bomb.
Weird.
In actuality, Janet was trapped in the microverse where she had to fend for herself for years before she was able to activate an emergency beacon and the Avengers rescued her. Later, during one of Ultron's attacks, Hank Pym was merged with his former creation. Shocked by the cyborg that Pym had become, Janet warily helped the Avengers fight Ultron Pym, learning that Pym had ultimately died in the merging process. As it was discovered though, Pym's first marriage before Janet was to a renowned Hungarian geneticist named Dr. Janis Travaya. Their relationship ended tragically when Travaya was kidnapped by the Russian Red Room and Pym was told she was dead. In reality, Travaya lived long enough to give birth to their daughter named Nadia Pym. Nadia was raised in the Red Room, at first to be an assassin, but after she showed a gifted intellect for science like her father, she was moved into the program's science division. The Red Room gave Nadia a sample of Pym particles obtained off the black market, hoping that she would be able to unlock the formula to their creation. Learning that her father was indeed Henry Pym, Nadia used the Pym particles and her own engineering skills to shrink and escape the Red Room, traveling to America in hopes to meet her father. She was devastated to learn that Pym was recently declared dead and broke into his lab to learn more about him. There, she unlocked the formula from Pym particles and created a costume for herself, becoming the new version of the Wasp. Seeing her as the daughter she never had, Janet took Nadia in and formed a strong bond with her. Though Janet kept Hank Pym's dark past from his daughter, Nadia eventually learned, and when she became a US citizen, she legally changed her last name from Pym to Van Dyne. With Janet's blessing, she continued her role as the new Wasp and joined the Avengers before being recruited into the new Champions team alongside Ms. Marvel, Miles Morales Spider-Man, and Ironheart. Nadia additionally got to know Scott Lang and went on several adventures with him in the Microverse. And that's the Wasp's backstory. For this match, I'll be going with Nadia Van Dyne. Even though I'm a huge fan of Janet, I like Nadia as a legacy character, and she does seem to embody the best sides of both Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne. So powers-wise, Nadia as the Wasp can shunt her volume and mass to and from an extra physical dimension that opens up when the subatomic particles known as Pym particles are activated. Through this process, Nadia can shrink and grow within limitations. She could shrink down to subatomic size, though doing so will transport her into the microverse, and she could grow to a practical height of 60 feet. And I say practical because any larger puts a strain on her organs and body. When she shrinks, she can vary her mass to be as light as a feather or as heavy as her original mass. When she grows, her mass also increases to grant her increased strength, able to lift 25 tons at 50 feet tall. She has special gauntlets that she can use to fire Pym particles that can cause other objects or people to shrink or grow. Through these gauntlets, she can also fire bioelectric blasts known as the Wasp Sting that are charged through the energy exerted via the shrinking process. She can fly via synthetic wings on her suit. Nadia's helmet comes with a pair of specially designed goggles that give her greater peripheral vision and analytical sensors. In addition, Nadia has a genius intellect like her father, and she also has Red Room combat training, and that's the Wasp.
Okay, so I get where you're using her, so you could level up the intellect stat.
Maybe.
You.
No, I do think that she's a great legacy character. The more I read with her and learned about her, the more I enjoyed her as a character.
Well, I think she shares quite a few similarities with Bumblebee, actually. Let me get into her backstory. Karen Beecher was a New York City librarian whose boyfriend, Mel Duncan, was recruited into the Teen Titans despite a lack of superpowers, which he was occasionally teased about, and for which Karen grew to believe the Titans did not appreciate or respect Mel despite the times he had saved their lives. You can learn more about the Titans in our Titans vs. X-Men Duel episode. A natural genius, Karen studied physics, computer technology, and political science, with dreams of one day being a scientist. During an adventure in Limbo, Mel discovered schematics for an otherworldly device capable of opening spatial warps and generating hypersonic bursts. Using her technical expertise, Karen managed to build the device dubbed Gabriel's Horn, allowing Mel to become the costumed and powered Teen Titans hero known as the Herald. The device's schematics gave her an insight into advanced technology, and without Mel's knowledge, she was able to conceive and create a weaponized exoskeleton that allowed her to alter her size. She used the suit to access the Titan's lair, where she attacked Mel in order to get him to showcase his new abilities in front of his teammates and gain their admiration. It was during that moment that she saw firsthand the genuine respect the other Titans had for Mal in the way they defended him, and she later confessed and apologized for what she had done. Impressed by her abilities, she was also accepted into the Teen Titans as Bumblebee, alongside Mal. After only a few more adventures, however, the Teen Titans disbanded, and Mal and Karen retired from superheroics, eventually got married, and moved to the West Coast when Karen got her dream job as a Star Labs engineer. Over the years, she and Mal would occasionally come out of retirement, such as when a war between the Justice League and the Titans developed, or to join the short-lived Titans West team, but they continuously returned to their normal lives. During the Infinite Crisis event, the two were recruited by their former Titans teammate Donna Troy, who you can learn more about in our Donna Troy vs. She-Hulk episode, on a mission to space to prevent a dimensional rift that would have resulted in the destruction of the universe. After a massive battle, Karen and Mal, like many other heroes, were caught in a malfunctioned Zeta beam initiated by the hero Adam Strange in an attempt to rescue his allies. You can learn more about Adam Strange in his Duel episode with Star-Lord. As a result, Bumblebee lost most of her body mass, leaving her permanently 6 inches tall. Mal was also affected as his Gabriel horn exploded in his face during the space battle, and now he had cybernetic lungs and vocal cords. Feeling like outcasts and in need of frequent medical care, the two joined the Doom Patrol, where Dr. Niles Calder developed a medical serum that would prevent Karen's tiny form from going into cardiac arrest. With help from Dr. Calder, Bumblebee was able to grow to a height of 7 inches, and she lived somewhat comfortably in a dollhouse. Unfortunately, she and Mel divorced during their time with the Doom Patrol, which Karen remained a team member of until it was disbanded. In post-Flashpoint continuity, Mel was a music composer, and his wife Karen was an air accident investigator who happened to be pregnant when they were both caught up in a battle between the Titans and the villain Mr. Twister. During the ordeal, Karen learned that Mal was a former member of the Teen Titans, the teenage hero known as Herald, though he and the other Titans had their memories erased and his metahuman sonic abilities were genetically removed, allowing him to lead a normal life. She also learned as she went into labor during the battle that she herself was also a metahuman capable of firing energy blasts from her hands. After the battle, she gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Mal took Karen to a company known as Meta Solutions, the ones responsible for removing his powers as a teenager in order to get Karen's own burgeoning abilities examined. When Karen refused to give up her new powers, Meta Solutions began work on a high-tech suit to help her harness her new abilities. It wasn't long before Mal realized that Meta Solutions was run by the Fearsome Five, a long-standing enemy rival team to the Titans. And as the Titans came to Karen's rescue, she put on the high-tech flight suit and discovered that she also had the metahuman ability to shrink. During the battle, however, the Fearsome Five's telepathic leader Simon erased Karen's memory of Mal and her baby, and after the battle, she agreed to stay on with the Titans until her memory could be restored. After almost a year on the team, during a battle with a terrorist organization known as Hive, Karen regained her memory, after which she retired from superheroics to be with her husband and child. Now, with the re-emergence of pre-Flashpoint continuity and the character's popularity and high-tech angle from the DC superhero girls and Young Justice cartoons, the version I'm going with for Bumblebee is the non-metahuman tech version, because I like Genius Karen.
Oh, I see what you're doing here. You're just going with this version so that you can up the intelligence stat.
See, that's how I recognize that you're doing the same thing. Now, the biometric exoskeleton suit she designed allows her to shrink to insect size while also providing enhanced strength and a bullet-deflecting durability level. She wears a cybernetic helmet with goggles, allowing her to see in the UV spectrum, but also capable of emitting electrical bolts, though she could also project those through her hands, as well as hypersonic blasts and a strong liquid adhesive she calls honey. She also has wings, for which she can alter the vibrational frequency of to shatter objects around her, and that's Bumblebee.
So this honey thing, that's pretty interesting. How does she use that in battle?
She uses it to like jam weaponry or incapacitate people.
Kind of like Spider-Man's webbing.
Exactly.
What a ripoff.
Oh my gosh. It's not webbing.
It's a pretty interesting weapon, though, for a character called Bumblebee.
Yeah, Marvel's just jealous they didn't think of it.
But now that we got these characters' histories and abilities out of the way, let's speculate on how one of the 1,000 simulated matches will go. The winner is determined by simulations, not the speculation, but it's fun to imagine how this fight could play out.
We don't set any rules for this match, other than the characters don't know anything about each other going in, except that the other character is a threat that needs to be put down. And we say they start off about 50 meters apart in an environment that has no bearing on the match itself, because we don't take stats for the environment.
Yeah, and plus certain characters have advantages in some environments over others, and we want these characters to win on their own merit. So let's get into it. Bumblebee and the Wasp meet on the battlefield. Who goes first? I'm going to say Wasp goes first since, they're both analytical scientists, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Nadia has more training, so she's probably more adept at battle. So she's going to start off by shrinking to the size of an insect, and she's just going to zip over to Bumblebee and use her Wasp sting to blast her right in the face.
Okay, but Bumblebee, she wears like that cybernetic helmet, and with the high-tech goggles, she's going to use those just to track Wasp, even in her small size. So as the Wasp is coming at her, Bumblebee also shrinks just in time to dodge that Wasp sting. And then she's just going to follow up with a hypersonic burst in Wasp's direction that's going to knock her off course and just like send her into this spiral in the air. She's going to be like, zzz. Yeah.
So to come out of this downward spiral, Nadia's just going to grow to normal size. And, she could also scan using her helmet, so she's able to spot Bumblebee, even though Bumblebee's shrunken down, and she's going to realize that she's dealing with another size-changing opponent. So she spots Bumblebee, she's going to lock onto her, and she's going to shoot out pin particles that force Bumblebee back to her normal size, out of her shrunken form.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, she still has her wings and all of her abilities at normal size. So, she's big, and she's just going to take aim at Wasp and fire off an electric bolt at her, which is going to disrupt her tech and all of her equipment and prevent her from shrinking or anything like that.
Well, Nadia doesn't shrink using tech. Like Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne, the Pym particles have been used so much by them that it's in their bloodstream. But that doesn't matter anyway, because Wasp just dodges this electric bolt by increasing her size to like 20 feet tall. So that blast just goes underneath Wasp's legs. And then Wasp is just going to take a few running steps and just straight up fucking punt Bumblebee into the air like a football. It's good!
Okay, but as Wasp is running toward Bumblebee in like slow fucking motion, I've seen Endgame. She's just gonna like spray honey at one of Wasp's feet, sticking it to the ground and just causing her to trip and tumble forward. All right, Bumblebee, she's gonna shrink and fly out of the way before she gets crushed. But Wasp, she's probably gonna like break her ankle because of this.
And Wasp is like, oh fudge. But before Wasp crashes to the ground and breaks her ankle, she's gonna save herself by shrinking down to insect size again and out of giant mode.
Well, now her whole body is just stuck in the honey then.
Well, yeah, but so she finds herself stuck in this massive pile of goop, and to get out, she just shrinks down to the molecular level or submolecular, and that way she can just simply squeeze herself through the honey molecules and get unstuck.
Lame.
And after escaping, Wasp flies over to Bumblebee and flies into her honey blaster device or whatever and just wrecks all the wiring.
Okay, so Bumblebee, she's probably going to see her gear like sparking and smoking and is like, what the heck? So she's gonna like open up the wrist gun, and she's gonna see Wasp inside, and then she's just gonna like smash her like a bug with her hand.
Dude, do you know how hard it is to swat a flying insect?
Dude,
trust me, I've tried.
I do it all the time.
So as Bumblebee tries in like slow motion, because she's so big and Wasp is so small, Wasp is gonna evade and then quickly grow to match Bumblebee's height. And she's gonna do one of those like luchador leg throw things that they learn in the Red Room, you know, the one that Black Widow does.
Right.
And so she's gonna use her legs to just fling Bumblebee down to the ground, except the Wasp is gonna use like all of her normal sized strength to do that. Bumblebee's just gonna bam, slam into the ground.
Okay, but I mean, Bumblebee is still small, so like she really doesn't have enough mass for this to hurt her like too much.
But this was a hard, full strength throw.
Well, even so, she wears an exoskeleton, armor, and a helmet, so she's protected. She's fine. But as she's on the ground, she's gonna see Wasp above her, and so she's just gonna uppercut Wasp as she's growing, just punching Wasp's like entire body. Sure, you can.
All right, so Wasp gets knocked out of the air real hard. We'll say hard enough to knock her back to normal size and knock off her helmet.
Okay.
So Wasp, she's going to lift herself off the ground. She's going to pick up her helmet and straight up chuck that thing right at Bumblebee like a dodgeball. But as she throws it, she's going to blast the helmet with pimp particles so that as the helmet flies at Bumblebee, it's going to grow to the size of like a wrecking ball. Yeah, and it's just going to slam into Bumblebee, just crush her.
Ooh, that's a good move. But I'm going to say, as this helmet is flying towards her, Bumblebee is just going to like crank up the vibration frequency of her wings, right? And that's going to vibrate the air around her and just like destabilizing the environment, including the helmet's structure. And that's going to cause it just to fall apart in pieces around her, like disintegrating it.
That's stupid. But okay, whatever. Wasp is going to follow up her helmet attack by shrinking down to near atomic height and flying up Bumblebee's nose. And while she's up in her brain, she just straight up ruptures it, killing Bumblebee and ending this match.
Didn't we do this in the Atom and Ant-Man match?
Yeah, but it's a good move.
But I'm going to say that because Bumblebee is still vibrating her wings as Wasp flew toward her, she's just got disintegrated too. Boom, just instantly vaporized by the vibrations. She's dead.
No. Bumblebee had stopped vibrating her wings at this point.
I didn't say that.
But Wasp is so small, she could just fly between the vibrations.
Dude, these vibrations happen at like the molecular level. She's dead.
Yeah, and I said that the Wasp flies into Bumblebee at near atomic size, which is smaller than molecules.
Is she flying through the air?
Yeah.
Is the air affected?
Yeah.
She just got like slapped around by a whole bunch of atoms then. I'm pretty sure that's how that would work.
Well, we'll leave it there. Either Bumblebee's vibrations cause Nadia to explode, or Nadia flies into Bumblebee's body, causing her brain to explode. We'll go ahead and leave the match there. We'll find out which scenario happens after we run the stats and the simulations and come back with a winner.
Let's do it.
This match turned out better than I thought it would be, actually. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I was
fun.
kind of concerned that it was going to turn out too similar to our Atom versus Ant-Man fight, but I thought this went well.
Yeah, each character has a lot going for them.
Yeah, I mean, Wasp, we said, can shrink down smaller than Bumblebee, so she was more evasive, and she was a better fighter due to her Red Room training.
But we also said that Bumblebee's exoskeleton gave her an advantage when it came to durability.
Both characters were highly intelligent, so neither of us quite got away with our attempted scam in that regard. They both had similar perception and range. Bumblebee was more versatile, but we said that the Wasp was actually stronger because of the fact that she could grow and increase her muscle mass in that way.
Yeah, the enhanced physical stats that Wasp got because of her growing ability kills me.
So who do you think's going to win?
I think if it wasn't for the freaking dumb ability to grow, then Bumblebee would have taken this. But looking at the stats, I disappointingly have to say I think Wasp is going to take it, but barely. I don't think it's going to be as bad as 68%, which was the percentage that our Instagram followers voted in favor of the Wasp. I think it'll be closer than that.
Well, let's find out. The winner between Bumblebee and the Wasp is Wasp!
The fuck was that?
I was trying to psych you out. But Wasp is the winner. She won 623 matches out of 1,000 simulations we ran.
Jeez.
Meaning that Bumblebee only won 377. So that's 62.3% to 37.7%. Not quite as bad as the number of Instagram followers that thought Wasp would win, but pretty close. In the end, Wasp was just too evasive in her ability to shrink smaller than Bumblebee, and her ability to grow and her fighting ability gave her the advantage. Jonathan, say something. You just look sad.
I don't want to say anything. Every time Marvel wins, I have to give some concession speech. I don't want to. Let's just wrap this shit up. Episode over.
Well, I will say then that Wasp totally deserved to win. She's a great character. Congrats to all of us Marvel fans for having the superior characters once again. I can't wait to see the Wasp in action again when Ant-Man Quantumania comes out. I think Evangeline Lilly does a pretty good job with the character. Who knows when and if we'll ever see Bumblebee in live action.
I think it would be cool if we saw her in the Titans TV series. I think they do their characters pretty decent justice.
Yeah, they have pretty cool costumes in that show too.
Yeah, totally.
That would be cool, for sure. But that does it for this duel. Let us know what you guys thought about the results by writing to us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com or by visiting us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You can find links to all of our accounts by checking out our show notes or visiting our website, dynamicduel.com.
And on our site, you can also find a link to our Patreon page, where we offer ad-free episodes of the show via a custom RSS feed, bonus content including top 10 episodes and bloopers, monthly live movie watch-alongs, collectible pin sets, and access to our Discord server. Again, check it out right after this episode at patreon.com/dynamicduel, linked in our show notes. Lowest tier, only $2 a month.
And we truly appreciate it, guys, everyone who joins. Our next episode is going to be a review of the Morbius movie.
Oh shit, is that this week?
That is this week.
I do not have my tickets yet.
Yeah, I got my tickets early because it's just going to be an amazing experience. It's going to be, a true theatrical cinematic masterpiece.
Of garbage.
I think it's going to really transcend the superhero genre in a way that few films manage to do. Definitely be one of Marvel's best movies. Maybe ever, but definitely of this decade.
I don't know where the fuck all of this is coming from. None of this is true, and you are setting yourself up for disappointment, my friend.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. My box office prediction is that the movie's probably going to make like $700 million opening weekend.
What?
And probably end up around $3 or $4 billion for sure.
Why would you set yourself up for failure like that?
Failure? You may call it failure. I call it facts. So...
care to make a wager on that?
That does it for this episode. We want to give a big thanks to our executive producers, John Speas, Ken Johnson, Jace Crump, John Starosky, Zachary Hepburn, Mitchell Phipps, Dustyn Balcom, and Levi Yeaton for helping make this podcast possible. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Up, and away.
True believers.